What's up, our Agile family out there on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, LinkedIn, Twitter. I think we're streaming to all those by now. So uh, glad to be with you this morning to talk a little bit about Agile for All's advanced training offerings. So we're pretty excited about this. The Scrum Alliance has been working hard to kind of build out a more graduated path to learning. You know, for years and years, we've had our basic level training with CSM and CSPO and CSD. And the Scrum Alliance has been kind of responding to the need to go a little bit deeper on these topics so that we can continue learning and continue growing in these various areas. So Agile for All has been, we've been talking about these offerings and what we might want to bring to the table, and we're pretty excited about it. Specifically, I want to talk about some of these programs and taking a new approach to at least a couple of them. So let me tell you a quick story about this. One of the first leadership teams that I worked with outside of Adobe was at a company in San Diego. And I was working with the CEO of that company and his team. And we wanted to do some leadership training. And so, you know, basically I was putting together a proposal that looked like most of our other training. It was a couple of days. It covered a lot of important topics on how to lead an agile organization. And I submitted the proposal and then was on a phone call with the CEO, Craig. And Craig was saying, look, this looks great. These topics look fantastic, but there's just no way I can get my whole executive team in a room for 2 days straight. You know, we're running a busy business. We're growing. We've got a lot of things that we're trying to address. Is there any way we could break these up over the course of several months? And my first response was, oh boy, this is going to be tough. You know, we're so used to doing training in kind of a concentrated way. And, you know, we've practiced. We've gotten really good at doing that. And so I had some concerns about that. But I was trying to remember that, you know, constraints breed creativity. And so working within those constraints, the way that we mapped it out is that I would come on site for 3 hours once a month. And we would basically cover a topic or maybe two, depending on what the topic was and how much time it required. And then in between, I would do a follow-up call 2 weeks in. And what it turned into was we could go pretty deep on a specific topic. We could really talk deeply about how that topic would apply at their company. And then at the 2 week call, I would always say, okay, time to review our homework. And I would send out an email the day before that call. And I would often get responses like, oh, yeah, I've got to do my homework. And then in the 2 week follow-up call, it was great because we could do some light touch coaching on that 1 hour call and help them tweak it a little bit. And then when I would come back in person on the next visit, they had really practiced these things and run some experiments and learned quite a bit. And by the end of that engagement, I was sold. I thought, this is the way to do leadership training. You know, it's a more agile approach to learning. We were doing things iteratively in small slices with validation along the way. It was done with a collaborative small team working together to continuously improve. It was focused on delivering the highest value first and then inspecting and adapting along the way. In that engagement, we made some changes to what the original proposal said based on what they actually needed. So that was a pretty eye-opening experience for me. And when the Scrum Alliance started building out some of these programs, and we were working with the Scrum Alliance on those programs as they were being kind of built out, we started bringing these suggestions and saying, hey, you know, I know that we're used to doing 2-day classes, but what about the possibility of doing these in a different way? It seems like there's a possibility for deeper learning if we were to be able to take an approach like this. And so we're pretty excited about running some experiments with some classes now. So 2 of the programs that Agile for All is now approved to deliver are the Advanced Certified Scrum Product Owner, the ACSPO, and the Cal 2 credential, which is the second credential on the Certified Agile Leadership program. And both of those are going to be experiments. We're going to experiment with an iterative approach like this. So we're pretty excited about that. So let me dig into a couple of basically details around these things, a few details. So let's start with the ACSPO, the Advanced Certified Scrum Product Owner. So we are very close to launching this program. I suspect that this will be live and you can start registering for it within about a week or so. And the way that the Certified Scrum Product Owner Advanced program is going to work is it's going to start with an online assessment and some pre-work. Anybody can register for the class that has a CSPO, and so we want to make sure that anybody that's registering is kind of up to speed on what we cover in our CSPO courses. We for years have taken kind of a more advanced approach just to our CSPO classes, and so we want to make sure that when we start, everybody's on the same page. So people that have attended my CSPO or maybe Richard Lawrence's CSPO, you're probably pretty close to having most of that pre-work done. And so we'll start with an assessment to make sure that you don't have to do a bunch of pre-work that you already are pretty experienced at. And folks that haven't taken one of our CSPO courses, the pre-work that's available will get you up to speed on things like value mining and feature mining, on things like story splitting, on things like facilitating multiple stakeholders, things that are learning objectives in the Advanced Certified Scrum Product Owner and in the core Certified Scrum Product Owner. We'll get you up to speed. And once the program starts, the way it will be delivered will be completely virtually. We'll have 6 90-minute sessions once a week. And in those 90-minute sessions, we will absolutely use our training from the back of the room approach. This is not going to be our traditional, a traditional lecture with slides. It's going to be training from the back of the room, activity-based, exercise-based. We're toying with the idea of calling it training from the back of the Zoom. Yeah, maybe not. We'll see. Sharon Bowman might not like that. But definitely going to take that approach in those sessions. So we will introduce a new topic. We'll do some exercises on it. We'll dig into it. And then we'll assign homework. And so the third component, in addition to the pre-work and those 90-minute video conference calls with your cohort, will include some practice along the way. So we'll do validated practice during the week. And then you'll come back into the next 90-minute video call and we'll review that. We'll talk about how it went. We'll talk about what we learned. Once we've finished the review, then we'll introduce the next topic, and we'll do that for 6 weeks in a row. So it's really mirroring that same pattern that I discovered working with my leadership client, that we can do a little bit of learning, do a little bit of practice, and then introduce the next topic. So we're pretty excited about that one. Our cohorts that we're going to launch, the first one will be launching in June. And we'll have cohorts launching in late August as well as November. So we'll launch 3 different cohorts around that program, and we're pretty excited about it. Some of the topics that'll be covered in the advanced version of the Certified Scrum Product Owner program are things like, how do we define value? One of the hardest jobs of a product owner is working with bunches and bunches of stakeholders. So how do we map those stakeholders and understand how we interact with different groups of stakeholders? So there will be a topic on that. We'll be talking about gaining a much deeper understanding of our customers and users, doing things like value proposition design and things like customer discovery. We'll have some topics around product validation. And if you've been to our CSPO courses, we already talk a bit about doing some validation testing. And in the advanced program, we will go deep on those. You'll get a chance to write hypotheses and design tests and run them and then get feedback on how those went. We'll be talking more about creating vision and strategy and understanding what it means to do that in an agile way, right? Because we're not just trying to predict a full release. We're trying to set a purpose and then iteratively work towards that purpose. We're really taking an agile approach to some of these traditional product management topics, so like vision and strategy, but also things like how do you create a roadmap that has the characteristics of agility? What does release planning and forecasting look like when we're working on an agile team? And then, of course, there will be a lot of information about doing backlog refinement like a real pro. It's one of the things that we love to do is coach teams on how to do great product backlog refinement. So those are all coming soon. It's going to be, again, starting in July will be our first cohort. And one of the things we're excited about is that people that are in this program are going to be people like you. They're people that are really upping their game in the product ownership space. And so not only will you get myself and Richard on those calls, but you will get the experience of working with a cohort of like-minded product owners. So that's pretty exciting for us. The next program I wanted to talk about is the Cal 2. So the Cal 2 is obviously the follow-up to the Certified Agile Leadership, the first version of that one. And the Cal 2 program is the one that actually creates the certification. The Certified Agile Leadership program is a little bit different than some of the other Scrum Alliance offerings in that rather than getting the certification after the first instance of attending the course, there is some ongoing practice and advanced learning required in order to get the certification. So with the Cal program, the certification does not come until after somebody has gone through the Cal 2 program. So Cal 2 is we're going to take in some ways a similar approach, right, where we take this agile approach to learning iteratively. But the program will look a little bit different on this one. People that have already gone through a Cal 1 program will be eligible to register, whether that was with Agile For All or with another one of the great Cal educators that are out there. And we will be doing, again, video calls. Video calls will be a portion of it. But instead of starting with pre-work on this one, the pre-work will consist of doing a leadership circle profile, which is a 360 that we've just fallen in love with at Agile For All. I've done 3 debriefs on those leadership circle profiles this week. And boy, every single time we do one of these debriefs, we get really deep into what needs to change for an individual leader and how that might be able to impact people around them in a really positive way. So we get really concrete, actionable ideas for what to work on in our own leadership development through that 360 profile. So everybody that's going into the Cal 2 program will have that common language, that common understanding of the leadership model based on the leadership circle. And then as we enter the program, each leader will have one big thing that they're working on for their personal leadership. And as we go into the program, the leaders will start working on, how do I want to use this leadership development to make a positive change around me? So that might be in their team or their organization. It might be in their community. It might be in their personal relationships. There could be really any way that improved leadership helps to impact the world in a positive way. And so those are really the 2 projects during the course of the Cal 2 program. There's a personal project of how am I growing and developing as a leader? And then there's a project that is bigger than me. How am I making a positive difference either in my organization or somewhere else in my sphere of impact? And then the Cal 2 program will span the course of 7 months. The Scrum Alliance recommends that between Cal 1 and Cal 2, there's about a year of practice and ongoing learning before we feel comfortable saying, you know what, you're a certified Agile leader now. You've done some work. You've done the hard work of growing as a leader. Those cohort calls will be 2 hours long, and there will be a total of 12 of those calls over the course of those 7 months. So we'll space them roughly every couple of weeks. We decided to space them over 7 months just to give a little bit of wiggle room in there in a program that long. There will be some times where there are holidays, or it just gives us a little bit of buffer to play with there. And the cohort calls there will be about 50-50, where we will introduce new topics in the sphere of leadership development and organizations and teams and how we make those things more agile. And then in addition to the advanced topic, there will be an opportunity to get coaching as people are working on their one big thing for their personal leadership development or their personal impact in their organizations or teams. It'll be a chance to get some coaching, and similar to the ACSPO, it will be an opportunity to get coaching from your peers, from cohorts, from other people that are really excited about this new leadership approach that they're taking, as well as from the Agile For All expert coaches, myself and Henry Dittmer and Jake Calabrese and Bob Hartman and folks like that are Cal-approved educators. Will be on the call as well. So it'll be a mix of expert coaching from us as well as coaching from your peers in the cohort. And so we expect that it'll be about an hour of an advanced topic. Again, taking that more human-friendly, brain-driven learning approach that we take, but doing that virtually so that people don't have to travel to attend these, and then that peer coaching. So we're excited about that as well. This program is maybe a few weeks after the ACSPO. We're getting close to it. We're approved from the Scrum Alliance. We've got some work to do to get the program listed on their side and on our side, and to make sure that we're able to communicate how our program actually works. And then we'll be getting set to launch that one as well. Some of the advanced training topics there I'm pretty excited about. Things like shifting from reactive to creative leadership, how cognitive bias impacts us as leaders, kind of balancing our task and relationship biases. You know, you're probably aware that you either have a tendency to focus on getting stuff done, or you might have a tendency to focus on building strong relationships. And we know that great leadership involves both of those sides. And so how we balance that out in our own lives. One of the topics will definitely be around Robert Keegan's immunity mapping. It's one of our favorite leadership coaching tools, and I've used it multiple times in my own personal life. Immunity mapping essentially takes our inbuilt, the way that our brain works, resistance to change, and starts to get underneath what hidden assumptions cause us to want to make a change, to be excited about a change, and then not able to execute on that change. When changes are what we call an adaptive challenge, just more learning and more knowledge does not help us make the change, but an immunity map pretty consistently is able to help us do one small experiment, going back to that idea of experimenting to learn again, to test whether our kind of hidden assumptions are true or not. And that's what helps us to unlock the capability to do some really meaningful change in our lives. So that will be one of the topics. We'll talk about distilling our own personal leadership principles, as we've studied organizations throughout the world that really take a next level advanced approach to their organizations. You know, these are the organizations we talk about in our Cal 1 programs, like our FAVI in France, or Buurtzorg in the Netherlands, or Morningstar here in California. These companies that look almost like fairy tale organizational structures when we read about them the first time. As I've studied those leaders, each of those leaders created that organization or transformed that organization based on a core set of human principles. An example of that would be Zobrist at FAVI. Just firmly believed that we should treat people as if we trust them. And so he made little change after little change when he joined FAVI as a CEO in the 80s to start to I guess, be true to that principle. And by the end of his tenure there, FAVI looks like the most agile organization in the world to me. It's a brass foundry factory. They make brass parts and other copper alloys for the automotive industry, but they're organized into these self-organizing teams that they call mini factories. They don't have clocking in and clocking out. It's just a fantastic organization, and it was completely created based on principles. Here's a book recommendation for all of you readers out there. Ray Dalio, who's the CEO of Bridgewater, which is another one of these organizations that we often study in the Cal 1 program. Ray Dalio has written a book called Principles, Life and Work, and he again takes just a principled approach to how he creates the organization structures and rules and policies and tools and really the mindset of the organization. So one of the topics we'll definitely cover is, what are your principles? What principles do you firmly believe about the world and how it should work? And then what would it look like if you were to start making small changes to more align with those principles? So we've got a huge list of topics. You know, as we were brainstorming topics that we could use, we have more than 12, even though there will only be 12 cohort calls on the Cal 2 program. And what we'll do is we'll work with the cohort to, in collaboration with us as kind of the product owners of this course, we'll prioritize those to help make sure that everybody gets what they need out of that program. The other component to the Cal 2 is that we want people to be able to tell their story. what is their personal story of leadership development and how that impacted the world around them. And so this is kind of the third leg of a Cal 2 program. If we look at legs of some advanced training, if we look at a leg of validated practice, kind of that coached practice on our one big thing and our changes that we're trying to make. And then the third leg is telling a story. And in the Scrum Alliance, when we first put this program together, we called that a peer workshop. I think maybe a cohort workshop. I'm trying to remember what language we used when we first sketched that out. But the idea is we want people to be able to talk to each other and share their stories about transformation, personal transformation and organizational transformation. And so that will be the third leg of this, is that throughout that 7 months of work, we'll start writing early drafts of what we're working on and how it's going. And by the time we get to the end of the program, every participant will have essentially their personal case study, their personal experience report of what great Agile leadership looks like to them, their own way that they've used it, and how it's impacted them. So we're really excited about that everybody can exit this and ideally have a publishable, shareable experience report of what Agile leadership is and what it does. So that's the Cal 2 program. So those are our kind of two experiments. So you can see that that's a pretty different paradigm from what we've done in the past. And we love our 2-day courses. We feel like we've worked really hard over years and years to make those as meaningful and impactful as possible. And we're excited to try this new approach as well. Sometimes we hear from participants that going to the 2-day class is like drinking from a fire hose for 2 days straight. And there's a lot of great new ideas. But I think with any training, the training can fade a little bit. Sometimes we call that the glow and the fade after the training, right? You leave the training just glowing with excitement and new ideas, and then you get back to the office. And maybe it's a slightly different culture than what we've talked about in the class. And so sometimes the learning can fade. So we're pretty excited about having some programs where we can sustain this over multiple weeks of practice and really build some of these principles, these techniques, and get a chance to practice and learn how we might apply them back at work. So those are the experience we're looking to run. We're also building out the Advanced Certified Scrum Master course. So far, we're going to take a more standard approach on this one, but going really deep on what it takes to be a great Scrum Master, including facilitation and coaching and how we lead change in an organization, how we build really amazing teams. So the ACSM is in progress as well. That one, again, starting out with a more traditional 2-day course approach to that, and making that just another one of the Agile for All awesome experiences in the room. And then we might look at offering that in both ways. We'll see. That's kind of to be determined right now. But those 3 new programs are coming soon. So we wanted to give all of our friends and followers out there a heads up of what's coming. And I guess I'm going to make a little plug here. I hadn't planned on doing that, but one of our favorite experiences at Agile for All is the Humanizing Work Advanced Training event that we do every summer up in Beaver Creek, Colorado, and that's coming up in June. And folks that are alumni, we would love to see you there. The conference is, I called it a conference. We used to call it the Humanizing Work Conference. And what we found is that some of our clients were able to get training budget, but not budget to go to conferences. And it really is advanced training. And so the official word is that the Humanizing Work is an advanced training event for folks that, either way, whatever you call it, it's a fantastic experience. So it's 3 days, June 26th through 28th in Beaver Creek, Colorado. There are a few seats left, but it is selling pretty well. We expect it to sell out this year. We cap it at 100 people because we want to keep it to be more of an intimate experience. It always feels like family when we go to Humanizing Work. So that's an opportunity to connect with other peers, connect with the broader Agile for All family, and go deep on some of these topics. And so we will have tracks at that event that include, essentially, Richard and I are talking about, hey, the advanced CSPO, the topics that we have at Humanizing Work around product ownership are pretty close to what we're looking at for the ACSPO learning objectives. The same thing with the Certified Agile Leadership. The topics that we talk about there are very similar to some of these that I've mentioned for the Cal 1 and Cal 2 programs. So you get a chance to work through those different tracks, and we're investigating whether we might be able to offer one of those advanced certifications for those that are attending the conference. So I think that's what I have today. I'm not sure if we had any questions coming in today on this early morning. Early for me, it's probably late for some of you, but for me this morning. And if there are no questions, then we'll wrap it up. Let me just take a look here, see if anything's popping up on the different feeds here. All right, so it looks like no questions. So this will be less of an ask me anything and more of a, hey, let me tell you what we're excited about and what's coming. Thanks everybody that's tuned in and that tunes in on the recordings of these, and we look forward to hearing from you. Feel free to add any comments on these streams, on the recorded versions of these, and we will absolutely get back to you. So thanks everybody, and look forward to chatting with you soon.